So it's 3-5 Talking Stick Resort in Arizona, seven-handed. That's the max that they're playing right now there.
And this is
Uh,
true no limit now, right? They just changed it. I asked a buddy of mine, Andrew, who sometimes calls into the show, if it sort of changed anything. Have you noticed any? Because I feel like Arizona was a little bit protected by a lot of traveling pros coming in because of the structure. If people aren't familiar, they used to have a cap, right? $600 bet cap or something per street.
for 3-5, yep, 600
Yeah, and
cap.
then they changed it now to true no limit. So I wondered if it kind of changed the game at all, or if it changed anybody sort of traveling in, if the game has gotten tougher at all.
So I don't have that many hours since they changed. It's just recently, it happened earlier this month. But to be honest, I'm still fairly new playing poker, and I don't have very many hours in overall in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
I just started playing 3-5 not that long ago.
Uh huh.
And even when I was playing 2-3, that had a $300 bet cap, and now that's true no limit as well.
Uh huh.
And I haven't seen a change in play. People get all in happy, and it's a good. I think it's a good thing because
People are jamming.
yeah, people just
Yeah.
jam in for their whole stack, and
Mm-hmm.
they because they're overvaluing things most of the
Or
time.
and they're also
They
not
don't know what
maybe
to
not
do.
accustomed, right? They're not accustomed to the non cap. It's interesting. Okay, so 3-5 talking stick. How deep effective?
The main villain, we're about 1K. I don't have the exact figures, but it's really
Okay.
close to about 1,000.
Okay.
All right, and I have the villain covered.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm in the small blind for this hand with Queen of Hearts, Jack of Hearts,
Okay.
and under the gun opens to 20. The hijack calls, the button, who's the main villain, calls, and then it gets to me in the small blind. And I put a little note in here when I submitted my hand history that in spots like this, since I'm still learning and try to figure out what's a good squeeze hand, when should I three bet, should I just call, given how many people are in it, all that kind of stuff. I know that other people have talked about using like a randomizer if you play online to figure out if you should three bet or call. And maybe this is I'm thinking above my own mental limit when it comes to this. But
So
something that I do is I'll shuffle chips in my hand, and I do that all session, and then I like heads or tails it if I get three bet or flat.
well, I mean, I did a whole thing on image. I think we might actually be putting up a little video series on image. And if you're a Crush That Poker subscriber, I talked about how you'd want to use image as a randomizer, whether you have a really good image or a bad image in times that it's close. It wasn't really so much preflop. I just want to make sure that I have it down properly. So under the gun to 20, hijack calls, button calls, and you're in the small blind with Queen of Hearts, Jack of Hearts, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a bunch of dead money out there, right? So you've got, but you have a tight opener from up front, under the gun to 20, hijack calls, button calls. So, I mean, I probably would squeeze here a fair amount with this hand because of that dead money. I don't think it's bad to just call either. I mean, you're not in the big blind where you sort of have more opportunity to just call as well. But a lot of times, if I've got these playable hands and there's a lot of people that are V-pipping wide, as long as you get through the under the gun guy, like if you can three bet, and if you heard my last call in, it's very, very strong where the under the gun might be forced to fold out a hand as good as ace queen off. Then you're really putting those guys in a spot with a very collapsed range, right? Because they're double flatters in that particular spot. So I would tend to three bet. Did you just call?
Yeah, I just called.
Okay.
All right, so I'm showing four ways to the flop with 85 in,
Okay.
and the flop comes Queen of Spades, Jack of Diamonds, Four of Spades.
So you flop top two.
Yep.
Okay.
So I decided that I wanted to lead here mostly because I didn't want to see an ace or a king at any point, and then I also wanted to protect against the flush draw, and I didn't know what to do, so I just led for 60.
I mean, you can have leading ranges coming out of the blind in single raise pots. I think in live poker and multi-way scenarios, it's usually not done on high boards all that much. And it's really hard to sort of balance or sort of develop, kind of leading ranges. I mean, the theory would go like, oh, you do it with some combo draws here. I actually don't mind leading with a lot of strong hands here. whether it's 4-4 or Queen Jack. Some people would be like, "Oh, this is heresy to lead here." I actually don't really mind the play all that much, and it might be something that I would do. So I don't think it's really all that far off from left field here. I don't necessarily know if Ace King is going to bet off into 3 people. All it has to do with the amount of people in the pot, because the more people in the pot, the less likely the opponent who might have missed, meaning doesn't have top pair or better, is going to really see bet.
Yeah.
How
Okay.
much did you bet for? 60?
60. Yeah.
Okay.
So under the gun folds, hijack folds,
Okay.
and then the button calls.
So the preflop raiser's out.
Yep.
All right. So button calls. Now, what do you think the button's range here is?
In my mind, this guy, I had been playing with him for about 3 hours, and when I sat down, he had about 1,400 in his stack, and he got it all the way down to 120, and then now he was just starting to battle back, but he had been showing a lot of weak holdings, in my opinion, like from early position, playing ace-6 offsuit, jack-10 offsuit, things like that, and then just getting paid. Or connecting. So in this hand, I really didn't know what to put him on. Thinking about a button range calling and under the gun open on this flop, maybe a strong queen or a strong jack, and then in my mind, I always had a set of 4s.
Well, I mean, he can have a spade draw, he can have a straight draw. He's closing the action, so he could have Jack X because no one called him in front. So there's a wide variety of hands that he can have. So, all right, the pot's 205.
Yep, and the turn is the 6 of clubs.
Okay, pretty good blank for you.
Yep.
Okay.
So I continue for 150. And he just calls.
Okay, so pretty big bet. So 2/3-ish, something like that, 3/4. Button calls again. Doesn't bring a backdoor out or anything like that from what I'm seeing here. So pot is now 505, and you guys have put in about 230. So you're left with maybe like, I don't know, 750, something like that, right?
Yep, that's what I have.
Okay.
And the reason why I bet a little bit bigger on there is I was thinking about spades as well. So then the river comes the 10 of clubs. So, and this might have been like the biggest mistake maybe of the whole hand is, in my mind, I was thinking about, okay, do I go small for value because I think I have the best hand? Do I go big to make it look like I'm bluffing to try and get paid off by Jack X or Queen X or something else? Or do I check to allow my opponent to bet a Jack X, Queen X, or if they had missed spades themselves because I didn't have spades? And since this particular player in my few hours of playing with them had done exactly that, won a few pots doing it and showed, lost a few pots getting caught with a overvalued hand or attempting to bluff, or I'm not really sure what they were doing because, again, my skill level might not be where it needs to be to like understand that. So I checked it to him.
Okay, so here's the thing about checking here at the end. So some people make some good points that, when he calls the turn, he does have a lot of draws here for this sizing because you block Queen Jack, but I don't really like checking in this spot to induce a bluff all that much. I just look at this like you've shown a ton of strength by leading and then continuing to bet, and you led out into the preflop raiser, okay? What hand are you check folding? So even if the guy doesn't even really, unless he's totally maniacal or just totally clueless, this is not a good spot to bluff busted spades. Like if I'm your opponent, there is no way I'm bluffing busted spades here because you're gonna call. I just don't buy, there's no way. So if you take that out the window, that his bluffing frequency goes down, then you're just left with the other reason to check call, which is to get the guy to value own himself with a hand that he would otherwise fold to a bet, which is not present here. So you beat, the only hand that he might value bet that's worse than your hand specifically might be like Queen 10, okay? If he's got like Queen 9 suited, who knows what he's playing? Queen X suited, King Queen suited. I think all those hands are going to check back, but they will call your bet. So I do like a bet here again, and I would probably go 250 to 300 here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think in the moment I was really, I was trying to think through what his range could be and what he could have, and outside of a set of 4s, I was just really in my mind putting him on spades or a strong queen, and that's why I wanted to give him like rope to value own himself.
Yeah,
So I checked.
but you heard what I just said though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I heard you. Yeah.
I don't think spades are going to bet all that much because you've shown so much strength, and queen X, especially a non-queens up hand, is going to check behind. So you're left with the bet. People also, obviously basic hand reading would dismiss the fact that this guy really should have ace king here because he overcalled the raise. Went raise, call, call. I mean, this is almost always 3-bet off. So I would definitely bet. But okay, so you checked.
Okay, and he bet 450.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna fold here. I mean, obviously it sucks because you might lose to a hand like 8-9 of spades or 8-9 just in. Well, yeah, he'd literally have to have 8-9. That's really the only other open-ended hand here would be King 10, which of course pairs at the end. I mean, I guess once in a while he could be bluffing with that, but I mean, your hand is too strong as played to fold here. I mean, there's just, that's a very surprising bet size here, I feel like, from your button. I mean, but he's a double flatter. What are you losing to here?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, in my mind at the time that he was bluffing with something, and I'm like, oh, easy. Okay, I'll just call. I didn't even think about 8-9 in the moment.
King 9 of spades too. That's another one, which is a combo draw.
Yeah, I didn't. That one I didn't even think about either. So I thought about it for like 30 seconds, and I think I already had my mind made up that I was check calling basically anything but a jam. So I called. I just called the 450, and he showed queen of clubs, queen of diamonds for top set.
Well, guess he can have ace king then. That's a pretty big cooler with what your hand is, and obviously that should be 3-bet off. But I mean, you'll see some crazy shit, and then you see some crazy shit on the other side of it too, where people aren't 3-betting hands that they should. But I mean, it's such an outlier, though. I mean, if we didn't know that the answer was queen queen, and I asked everybody in the live chat how often would our opponent might have queen queen or jack jack here, I mean, we would say like it's such a small sliver of his range, especially holding queen jack, that it's almost not even a consideration. So I do think that the takeaway here is to bet the river. And I don't mind your lead. Obviously, you can go for a check raise here too. But the more people, remember, it's the end of the gun who opens. So the more people that are in the hand, the less likely someone's going to be doing some ace-king betting. And then also too, I didn't mention at the time, because the preflop raiser is from up front, if he checks and somebody else bets, now you don't want like queen 10 to fold on the flop if you were going to check raise. So that's sort of the whole thing here with leading. So I don't mind that play, but I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel. And for more training videos like this, head over to crushlivepoker.com and you can use the coupon code YTA500 to get the first 30 days for free.